Hey everybody, this is part 3 of chapter 11 on the muscular system, and let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so functions of axial and appendicular musculature. So remember, axial has to do with the head and the vertebral column. So it positions the head in the vertebral column and helps move your rib cage, as well as forming what we call the pelvic floor, as well as your appendicular musculature, which deals with your appendicular skeleton. It moves and supports your pectoral and pelvic girdles, as well as your limbs, right? Because that's in your appendicular skeleton. So you need to know things that levers can change, all right? Because remember, we talked about levers before with first class, second class, and third class levers. So one of the things that levers can change is the direction of an applied force. All right, the next thing that levers can change is the distance and speed of movement. Okay, then the third thing that levers can change is the effective strength of an applied force. Okay, so those are the three things levers can change. So if you see that as a short answer question on an exam, you would know how to answer that. Okay. All right, so name of a muscle can tell you information about its blank. So there's 6 things that the name of a muscle can tell you, and on a short answer question, you'd have to be able to name a few of those. So let's talk about them. You can sometimes tell the location of a muscle based on its name, because it might have a similar name to a bone that's in that area. Could also tell you information about its origin and insertion. It might also tell you about how the fascicles are organized. It might tell you, remember we learned about that with the fascicle organization earlier in part 1 of this series. And so for number 4, it could tell you about the relative position of the muscle, where it is in the body, right? And might also tell you about some different structural characteristics it might have. Could also tell you about its action. Okay, so you might be asked in the short answer question to provide a few of those. All right, so I wanted you to be able to answer that question. All right, so what is the function of the appendicular musculature? All right, so I'll give you a few minutes to think about how you would answer that question. I would encourage you to write it down or type it. All right, and if you are watching with someone at home or watching on a watch party with other classmates online, try to take a minute and ask each other to explain each other's answer. So go ahead and pause the video now. All right, let's see what the answer is, and it is to move and support the pectoral girdles and limbs. All right, so what are 2 things levers can change? So, all right, so why don't you go ahead and think about that and write your answer down. And if you are with someone, take a minute, and if you're with you, explain the answer to them. And if you're watching online with your classmates, maybe type each other the answer, what you think the answer is, and explain it to each other. So go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's see what the answer is. Well, again, there were 3. I asked you for 2 of them, so it could have been direction of the applied force, the distance and speed of movement, or effective strength of a force that's applied. Okay. All right, what are 3 things you can determine about a muscle based on its name? All right, so go ahead and take a minute to think about it, write something down, or type something. Again, if you're with someone, go ahead and explain it to them. And if you're watching with others in your class online, go ahead and explain it to one another. All right, so go ahead and pause the video. Okay, let's see what the answer is. So again, there were 6. We could have given any of these 3: location, origin, and insertion. fascicle organization, relative position, structural characteristics, and action. Okay. All right. So we're going to go on to finish these out as well. All right. So these are two factors that determine the effect on skeletal muscle contraction. So you've got the anatomical arrangement of, the muscle, right, as well as the way muscle attaches to the bones. Okay, so those are two factors that will determine the effect on contraction of skeletal muscle. Okay. So again, if you see that as a short answer, you want to be able to explain those two. All right, organization of skeletal muscle fibers will affect, and again another potential short answer, power, range of movement, and speed of movement. So again, remember we learned about those 4 different types of skeletal muscle fiber arrangements, so they could determine the power, the range of movement, or the speed of movement. Okay. All right, so we'll finish up with some matching on some different medical terms, or we'll discuss some medical terms. You would see these on matching questions. So what's a hernia? Well, according to Oxford, it is a condition in which part of an organ gets displaced and actually goes through the wall of a cavity that's containing it. A lot of times you see this involving your intestines and going through some weak point in the abdominal wall. Okay, so that's a hernia. An intramuscular injection is according to Healthline, it's a technique that's used to deliver a medication that goes deep into the muscle, so into the muscle, right? Intra, within, so it goes into the muscle. And this will allow that medication to be absorbed into the bloodstream quickly, all right? So that's why they do these injections. So oftentimes they'll inject muscle or medication into the gluteus maximus muscle in person's rear area. So and so then that's why they do that. Okay. 2 more terms. You have compartment syndrome, and that happens according to WebMD when you have excessive pressure and it builds up inside some muscle space that's enclosed inside the body of the muscle, right? Or actually inside the human body. All right, so it's enclosed muscle space inside the human body. And this usually will result from bleeding or swelling after some injury, and can be dangerously high pressure, and it can impede the flow of blood to and from affected tissues. Okay, so and we have to differentiate that from ischemia, which is when you have an inadequate blood supply to some organ or part of the body, especially the heart muscles, particularly in the case of getting a certain type of part of the body that doesn't get access to blood. All right, so and that's according to Oxford. And so ischemia, it's more of a result, whereas compartment syndrome has to do with the pressure. So the pressure could impede blood flow, which could lead to ischemia, but the buildup of excessive pressure is compartment syndrome. All right. Okay, so let's do our check for understanding. So what are 2 factors that determine the effect on skeletal muscle contraction? All right, so take a minute, think about it, write down an answer, and if you're with someone, go ahead and explain it to them. And if you're watching with folks online, your classmates, go ahead and explain to each other by basically typing in your responses to one another. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's see what the answer is. Again, it is the anatomical arrangement as well as the way the muscle attaches to the bones. Okay. All right, what are 2 effects of the organization of skeletal muscle fibers? So again, think about it, write down your response. If you're with someone, go ahead and explain it to them. If you're watching with others online in your class, go ahead and type your responses to one another. Okay, I'll pause the video now. Okay, let's see what the answer is. All right, so any combination of two of these three would have worked: power, range of movement, and speed of movement. All right, so next question: a blank is a condition in which part of the organ gets displaced and protrudes through the wall of the cavity containing it. All right, so I'll give you a minute to think about your answer, write it down somewhere. Again, if you're with someone, you can explain it to them after you've written down your response. Then if you're with others watching in your class online, you can type your responses to one another. So I'm going to stop the video now. All right, let's go ahead and see what the answer is, and it is a hernia. Okay, it's a condition in which the part of the organ gets displaced and protrudes through the wall of the cavity containing it. All right, next question. Blank occurs when excessive pressure builds up inside an enclosed muscle space in the body. All right, so go ahead and think about it, write down your response. If you are watching with someone at home, you can explain your response to them. If you're watching with your classmates online together, you can type your responses to one another. All right, so I'll go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's go ahead and see what the correct answer is. It is compartment syndrome. All right, that's that excessive pressure. Okay, so I want to wish you all good luck, or wish you specifically good luck on quiz 3 and exam 3. Again, you have access to those in Canvas, so good luck. And again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me in Canvas, or you can schedule virtual office hours. All right, using the link I provided in that transition to online learning module. All right, so good luck, everybody. Bye-bye.